What's going on, YouTube family? It's Andrea here at VW Family Farm, and welcome back to the kitchen. Today we are going to be roasting pumpkins of any shape or size that you want. So get your pumpkins out, and the first step is we're going to wash them off, and we are going to go ahead and dry them because we want them to be good and dry before we start cutting on them. I have canned pumpkin before according to the Ball book. Y'all know that's my favorite canning book. And it's fine, but it turned out a little bit watery. I'm trying a different method because I want a thicker pumpkin puree, and I'm gonna freeze it this time. I like the concept of canning things because you're not dependent on the freezer, but it was just a little too watery for me. So we are gonna roast these and turn them into beautiful pureed pumpkins. So let's get busy. One more thing I wanted to add before we get started. I am using sugar pie pumpkins. That's what I grew from Baker Creek. I grow them to eat. They're cute to look at, but they produce a ton of pumpkin. Pie pumpkins produce a lot more pumpkin than even a big giant pumpkin would. That's what they're designed to do. They're awesome, but you can use any kind of pumpkin you want. You can use a really big one, just whatever you have, whatever you grew. Okay, so you've got them washed and dried. The next step is you're going to start at the top and you're going to cut all the way through. If you don't stick your knife all the way in and try to cut both sides at once, it seems to work a lot better. Your knife doesn't get stuck. If you do get your knife stuck, you may just have to bang on it a little bit and work with it. But there is a hollow part in the middle where the seeds are, so if you kind of just cut in there and go all the way around, it's a whole lot easier. Now, as you can see, the center is full of seeds. These are yummy goodness, so we're going to scrape these out and put them in a strainer, and then we're going to wash them later, and we'll do something with them on another video, but don't trash them because you can roast your pumpkin seeds. They're delicious and good for you. Okay, I'm gonna use an ice cream scoop because if you have a good stainless steel ice cream scoop, they're strong and you won't bend the handle, but you can see it will scoop these out quickly and easily. So that's what I'm gonna do to all these. I'm gonna get all 4 of these cut and the seeds out, and then we'll move on. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the pumpkins all sliced in half and prepared. I had one half that had some bad spots. I am gonna chunk that out to the compost. I don't wanna take a chance on that. So just look for any black or brown spots inside and clean them up as you go. I've got the seeds over here in a strainer. I'm gonna wash them because they've got pieces, I'll just show you. They've got pieces of the pumpkin in them. So I'm gonna wash them and get that cleaned up, and then I'm gonna dry them on some paper towels. I'm gonna pop those in the fridge, and then later I'm gonna roast those, and I'll try to video that for you too. But now I'm gonna take a couple cookie sheets. Like I said, I've got the oven heated to 400 degrees. I'm going to line these with parchment paper, and I'm gonna roast these. Okay, I'm lining this with parchment paper, and I'm gonna put these cut side down, and I'm just gonna fit as many as I can on these cookie sheets. Okay. All right, so we are gonna pop these in the oven and roast these for probably 45 minutes to an hour. Bigger ones are gonna be done. They're gonna take a little more time, smaller ones a little less. You should be able to pierce the side with like a fork or a knife, and it pierces easily. They're gonna get really tender, so that's how you'll know they're done. So that's all there is to it right now. This is pretty quick. I'm just gonna pop these in, and then I've got other chores to do, and I will be back with y'all in a little while. All right, so it's been an hour. They're good and roasted. They're actually, you can feel they're pretty soft. I'm gonna be honest, got a little smoky in here. We got busy doing chores outside and Lane comes out and said, Mom, it's getting a little smoky. These are not burnt at all, but when you're roasting something without water involved, it can put off a little bit of smoke or steam or whatever you want to call it.
A little bit.
So, but now the next step is just let them cool, because you're gonna have to handle them to get the puree out of the pumpkin. So to speed that process up, or to just make it go better, I would suggest flipping them over, and you can see they're not burnt at all. Like, they're beautifully roasted looking. So they're gonna be really good. I actually left a couple seeds in this one, so now's a good time to get that out, because you don't want that in your puree. So I'm just gonna flip all these over and then I'll come back to them in a little while. Okay, so as soon as your pumpkins are cooled off and easy to handle, you're ready to proceed to the next step. Mine are really cool. You don't want any of the peeling in there. It doesn't taste good. You can just compost that or whatever you want to do with it. Mine just peeled right off because I roasted mine. Like I told you, it even got a little smoky in here. I would probably, it's been a while since I've done this, so I would probably turn it down to maybe 350, 375 and roast a little bit longer. I did 400 for an hour. Like I said, I'd probably go a little bit longer than that and a little bit lower temp. But you can take a spoon if you need to. If yours aren't as cooked as mine, this is just peeling right off, and you can scrape them out at this point. You're just trying to get the peeling off and leave the goodness, the middle. All right, so I got it all off the rind. The peeling is all over here. I'm gonna compost that. And then now this is just in big chunks. There's still some strings and stuff. It's just, it's not pureed like pumpkin you'd get in a can. So you've got a couple options at this point. You could put it in a food processor, or maybe even a high-powered blender. I don't know exactly how that would work. Or you can do what I'm gonna do, which is use an immersion blender. I'm just gonna move it around and pulse it throughout a few times and get it good and blend it up. So I'm just gonna keep doing this, pushing it down through here until I feel like it's good and blended and pureed. Okay, so I got mine pureed up. It's really thick. It's really beautiful and good. Pumpkin has quite a bit of water in it, so a lot of times at this point you're gonna have a real watery mixture, and you're gonna think, well, this isn't as thick as what I buy. I think what happened is the reason that mine started smoking is because I had cooked absolutely all the water out of it. So mine is very thick. But if yours is watery at this point, you need to spoon all of this into some kind of a strainer, like a fine mesh strainer, and you can put it over a bowl and catch the liquid out of it, just like gravity do its thing, or you can like put a plate over it or something like that to weight it down and push the water content out of it. So you'll have a nice thick puree to bake with, because you don't want a watery pie, or you don't want to put something watery in pumpkin cookies or something like that. Definitely you'll want to catch that liquid, because that's awesome to feed to your animals, compost, or you could keep it and put it in soups or things like that. It's really good for stuff like that. So I'm gonna leave this for a few hours. I'm gonna cover it up and see if some of the water kind of works its way out, because sometimes it will do that. And then I may go ahead and strain mine also. I'm gonna come back later and give you a bonus recipe of a paleo pumpkin pie that I'm gonna make for supper for us tonight. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys later this afternoon. What's up, y'all? It's later in the day. I'm ready to make a pie. I am eating no grains right now, so I'm gonna show you how to make a paleo pie crust and then the best ever pumpkin pie. So let's get going. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do is make the pie crust. So you need 2.5 cups almond flour. This is the kind I have right now, super fine Bob's Red Mill almond flour from Blanched Whole Almonds. I've bought several different brands and not been disappointed in any of them. And first off, before we go any further, I want to plug this book, not because I'm getting anything for it, but because I love this book. I'm going to have Lane link it below. It's called Against All Grain, and I bought this several years ago when I did grain-free before, and her story is remarkable. Her name is Danielle Walker. I have actually 3 of her cookbooks. If you're doing anything like gluten-free, grain-free, or anything like that, this is a wonderful resource to have. So I'll link it below, but that's where I'm getting this recipe. It's her pastry crust recipe. So like I said, 2.5 cups almond flour, and I'm just putting this in my food processor. And I had also mixed in the 1 tablespoon of coconut flour in there. Coconut flour soaks up a lot of liquid. It's very kind of dry to bake with, so a lot of times her recipes will have almond flour and then a little coconut flour, because that helps gluten-free and flour-free stuff hold together better. And then we're going to put 1 large egg. This is really simple. We are going to put, I've got some ice water here, and we're going to put 5 teaspoons of that. I'm just dumping everything in here all at once. I haven't mixed anything yet. So 5 teaspoons. Whoop, there was another one. Okay, 5 teaspoons of ice water. And lastly, for now, 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Okay, then you're gonna process that. Now you could probably prepare this by hand. You would just need to whisk it around really good. So I'm just gonna process this for about 30 seconds and get it all good and blended up. Okay, last ingredient is 3.5 tablespoons, and in her book it's palm shortening, but you could use whatever you're comfortable with. You could use lard that you've rendered yourself or that you've bought. You could use coconut oil, or you could use like palm fruit shortening like she suggests. So just whatever you want. 3.5 tablespoons of that. Use little amounts and space it out around the bowl before you pulse it. Okay, the last step is basically pulse this 4 or 5 times just to get it incorporated, and then we're ready to put it in our pie dish. So we're just gonna pulse 4 or 5 times. Okay, so I pulsed it. It's all good and incorporated, and I'm ready to put this in my pie plate and just press it around the sides. All right, I'm gonna pop this in my oven. It's heated up to 325 and bake this for about 10 to 15 minutes. I'm just gonna keep an eye on it. I don't want it to get too brown while I mix up the pie. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is beat an egg white. Next ingredient is 1.5 cups of our beautiful pumpkin we cooked earlier. From this point on, just add everything in there together. 1 1/4 cups milk. I'm using almond milk. 3 eggs. A cup of beautiful golden deliciousness. This is crystallized honey. So when it crystallizes, I use it for baking. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. And lastly, a full teaspoon of cinnamon. And blend it all up. Alright, so our pie crust probably only baked about 10 minutes. It just needed a little bit of a start on baking. You can also put a pumpkin or sweet potato pie in a graham cracker crust, but I prefer it in a real like pastry crust. So at this point, crank your oven up to 350. And then we've got, this is gonna be very runny at this point, but it's full of eggs and different things that are gonna make it come together the longer it bakes. So we're gonna pour this in here and hope that it fits. Think I may stop right there. So now we are just gonna pop this in and bake this at 350 for 70 to 80 minutes. Just whenever it's set in the middle, it'll be done. And I'm gonna end this video right here. I will show you the family tasting it later. I'm not sure the whole family knows that this is not a flour pie crust, so we'll see if they notice. Especially Lane and Ben, so we'll see. So Thanks for hanging out with me. Get your pumpkins picked and roasted. They are wonderful and delicious to eat, not just to look at. Thanks for spending the day with me in the kitchen. I'll see you guys later. God bless.
Good?
Especially for being healthy. If this is diet food, sign me up.